Okay, friends, here we go, part two. Here we are so far. Isn't that looking nice? A little bit of work to do just on some of the tracks, maybe deepen them slightly. But look, all in all, I'm pretty happy with what we have achieved. Um, what I might just do is a little bit of work just on the tracks. I want to add just a little touch of deep and dark kind of a purple to some of them, okay? I think it needs it. There's just something. I keep looking at the tracks. I just think they're a little bit too bright for me. So I'm just going to add a touch of a kind of a pinkyish purple to some of them. Just along the edges, just to show maybe, I don't know, I suppose, the side of the track. Um, I don't know, I keep looking at it and it's just not it's not doing it for me for some reason. I don't know. I'm probably just being paranoid now, but um, I just wanted to get a little touch of something in there. And I also want to darken in where it meets the train. I just want to sort of darken them down just slightly in there. Okay, maybe a bit of black even. Could try a little bit of black. Just a little now. Because I just think it's where they meet the light. I think it just needs a little, you see that, just a little bit of darkness there, just to kind of help it sort of fade in towards the train. That's all. And this white line, I'm not happy with that, so I'm just going to scrape that out as well. Almost kind of, you could even almost, I suppose, soften it into the track lines like that. Okay, just something like that. Yeah, that's a bit better. And we can work on more details later. Anyway, let's try create this lovely smoke. I'm going to take a medium flap kind of a brush, nice and clean. This is still wet now, by the way. It's slightly dried in, okay? Just enough, I would say, for me to be able to do my lovely dark smoke. Now, let's start with the spout, okay? I'm going to go with a burnt umber and a little cadmium red, because what's happening is the sun is kind of coming through the smoke, so it's making it a kind of a warm brown to begin with. So I think I'll start with that. Maybe a hint of magenta as well. So a kind of a pinky brown, okay? I'll start with that, and let's just start putting it in like that. Just kind of getting the rough shape. As it comes up, it goes into a grey, doesn't it? So I'm not too worried about it as it goes up higher. But certainly, at the beginning here, I just want to make it a nice pinky kind of a brown colour first. Then I start adding some burnt umber on its own. So you can see we have sort of dark patches and light patches, don't we? And I'm simply using the tip of my brush going around in little circles, okay? That's all I'm doing. And I'm going to start adding a little touches of black as it comes up. And across like that. Now, I'm not focusing on lights, okay? Just not yet. I'm focusing on the darks. So I'm starting with these dark shades. Now I need to get some magenta on my palette. So I hope you're enjoying this tutorial so far. It's a nice refreshing kind of tutorial, I think. I love a refreshing tutorial like this. It's nice for a change, isn't it? Now I'm going to just start kind of moving that in, see, creating little swirls. You see that? Then it comes up, it goes right out there, doesn't it? Like that. And it sort of comes back in then a little bit. Simple little turns with the brush. That's all it is. Okay, my friends? I'll take a touch of turpentine and I'll do that again. Let's get some magenta, some black. As we come up, perhaps even a touch of blue. All right, just like that. And you can do as much or as little of this as you want now, okay? Let's put a little bit of light. Let's soften it out into the sky there just a little bit to make it sort of that nice puffy sort of smoke. It's just sort of, you know, the way it dissipates and it disappears, gets thinner and thinner. That kind of a way. Look, let's kind of go down like that and just soften it around. Barely touching the canvas with this now, all right? Okay, isn't that nice? You see how simple that was? Now remember, I'm focusing on the dark sides, so I'm not going to go into all this yellow just yet, okay? I'm going to just dampen my brush now a little, and I just want to fill in this area up here, which is just a dry canvas. I just want to fill that in, and look, I'm kind of, you see the way it's coming, you can get layers. So I'm just coming down slightly with different layers, like that. Now it comes up here and it comes across. It gets very black then up on top, doesn't it? Goes right out of the painting. So we can add some nice rich black up there in a moment. So let me just focus on getting the dark sections of this done. Now, as it comes into the dark, into the sun sort of, I'm going to just start adding little touches of cadmium red, and I'm going to soften them through. And look just around in little circles again, that's all right? You know how to do this, just little circles. And that's adding to the warmth. See, we can even go into some sienna as well. So we've lots of warm tones going through. And you know something, a good idea too is to make it nice and warm where it meets the bright side. It's a good idea to kind of make it slightly warm, because that'll make it much easier for us later on to soften in our yellowy colors. Okay, so we're going from yellows to red instead of yellows to black. Do you understand what I mean? It'll make it much easier later. Now, a little bit of a sienna with Naples yellow just along this side of the smoke, and you see that then will allow us to soften in the yellows much easier. So I always do this with my paintings, okay? If I'm going from a blacky grey colour to a yellowy colour, I always put a warm colour in between, like a pink or a salmon colour in between, okay? That always helps transfer from one section to the next. Do you understand what I mean by that? Now I'm taking some cadmium yellow and cadmium red, and look, I'm just going to pop that in down here. Again, that's helping us with the warm colours later, which are to follow very, very soon, okay? So you see, just softening some of that kind of warm, orangey, reddy sort of a hue in there, like that, okay? Let's cover this as well, look. Put a big, nice big mound of... Already, that's looking quite nice, isn't it? You can see the sun coming through. Now, I'm going to clean my brush just very quickly and go very dark up here. You see this real blacky colour we have. Let's take some black and some phthalo blue. Let's go up here and really go to town with this dark colour. Little circles, and I'm just moving them around in sort of up and down sort of a techniques, okay? You see that? Up and down, round and round, kind of left and right, all the way along. And that's simply the easiest technique you can use, my friends. I'm going with a bit of purple in there as well. A bit of purple, just to suggest a dark, shady sort of a grey hue. And I'm going to put in, you see that very dark section we have kind of coming down in here in front of those bright yellows. I'm going to pop some of those in, just the shapes and the directions of those, okay? I'm just looking at the direction. You see the way it's kind of curving around like that. So I'm just getting set up then for my shape of the cloud. Now more black, and I'm going to put a very dark black up around here. And I'm going to bring this out a little bit more, look. Now, how about that? Isn't that looking quite nice? And a little bit of the black just around the center as well. And notice when I'm doing this, I'm going in this curve, because you can see the way on the cloud, I'm calling it a cloud. You see the smoke plume is kind of turning as it goes up. You see those lights and darks turning down at that kind of an angle. So, and that's why I'm putting them down at a sort of an angle like this and going back around in like a semicircle almost, okay? Now, let me stop and take a look at this. I don't want to go too far, too soon. All right. Yeah, that's good. Now, we have a nice light grey in there, don't we? Let's just take some white, mix it in with that grey, or that black there, okay? Go for a nice grey and a hint of magenta. So I have a nice soft kind of a grey as well. Maybe a bit more white. And I'm going to just pop a little touch of that in here and there as well. It's just a little bit here and there. You see it's sort of popping out here and there. And then I'll go nice and bright with that grey on the outside here, okay? Now, I'm not going to overdo this, all right? But look, maybe just a little bit up there, a little bit there. You see I'm using the corner of the brush, you see that? And then going around in little circles. Okay. Now, there, that's not bad. What I'm going to do next is, I'm just simply going to take a soft well, now, when I say soft, it's gotten quite hard. I think I let this dry by accident somehow. I'm going to get some turpentine and I'm just going to dampen some tissue, okay, or white spirits. I have some white spirits there. I'm going to dampen a tissue like that and simply rub this along, okay, just to kind of soften the bristles a bit, get that hard paint off, soften the bristles out. That should help soften it just a little bit, okay? Don't be afraid of being a little rough with this. You want to soften the bristles. When I say bristles, hairs. You want to soften the hairs off, okay? Now, let me try that and have a look. Okay, that's a bit better. I want to just go around this now and soften it in little circles, look. With the tip of my fan brush. Very soft. Any soft brush will do for this, okay? It doesn't have to be a soft fan brush. It can be any soft makeup brush that you have. I'm just going to soften all of this in. You see, just to help merge it together just slightly. Okay, that's it. Now I must not forget to wash this later. So that's the dark done. Now we must concentrate on the bright side. Now for that, I'm going to take, I'll go back to my same brush. I'll just give this a good clean, all right? Let me just get this a really good clean here on my tissue. I don't know if you can hear outside, it's raining very, very heavily. I do apologise if there's noise coming over the microphone, but it's raining very heavy on top of the shed, my timber shed here, my studio. It's only a timber shed really, that's all it is, but it does the job. Let's go into some of these nice colours now, these yellows. I need to get some Naples yellow on my palette, nice fresh Naples yellow. And I'm going to take Naples yellow with some cadmium yellow, and there's a hint of that cadmium red in there as well. Let me try this now. It's actually a bit more red, isn't it? It's like an orangey colour, nice orange. So Naples yellow, cadmium red, and cadmium yellow, I think should do just fine. This is a nice kind of a rich colour now, and there's a bit more cadmium yellow in this by looking at the photograph. It looks like there's more cadmium yellow than anything else. A touch of cadmium red as well, okay? Let me just try that. Now that's a nice colour, I'm happy with that. I'm going to start here and just start putting that in. Now remember, we're going around greys and blacks down the bottom, so we need to be very careful down there, okay? And let's just go up here and put that in, push it in. I'm going to soften it then into the red, you see? Very gently. Let it merge together into the red colour. Now, give the brush a wipe, and we go back in again. This time I'm going to go up and around some of those darks, okay? Soften them in very gently. But be very careful, you don't want any greens showing in this, all right? That's the last thing we need now is greens. So make sure my brush is really clean now. So I'll take some yellow, again, some Naples yellow, and a touch of a cadmium red. Okay? It's a kind of a yellowy, salmony, peachy sort of a colour, I can see. Now I'm going to go around, okay? You just need to be really very careful with this. You don't want any of those little pieces of green showing through anywhere. So the trick with this is really to do it in layers, okay? And I'll try to explain to you what I mean. So if I just take more of that colour there, what I do is I put in one layer like this, okay? And then I put in another layer underneath that. So then I go with another layer in front of that one, you see? It's a slow process, but it takes time. But look, if you just take your time and honestly try not to rush, because if you start rushing and if you become impatient, that's when it all goes wrong, okay? Just take your time, be nice and gentle, nice and slow. I want to go up here and do one or two big ones, look. So if I go like that, creating a cloud. Now clean your brush immediately, get that dark colour off, okay? After each time, clean your brush. You probably might be better off leaving your painting dry completely, leaving that dark dry completely, because it's very difficult to kind of soften opposite colours together, if you know what I mean. And what I mean by that is, you know, greys and yellows, okay, they make greens. So it's very difficult trying to soften them together without getting a green on your painting, you know, it's very, very difficult. So let me get some more nice bright rich colour now. Let me really go to town on this. Cadmium yellow, cadmium red, a little Naples yellow. And I'm going to come down here now, really try and go to town with all of these lights. Soften them outwards as well, look, into the atmosphere. That helps, doesn't it? Then I'm going to soften these again with my fan brush, look. Just soften them in and go around in little circles. That'll soften them in like nicely for you. This is very similar to painting a cloud, okay? You've probably painted clouds similar to this just by going round with your brush. It's very, very similar, it really is. So look, I'm thinking next I might get a smaller brush and start doing a bit of work with some smaller brushes, okay? On these lovely brights. So I'm going to get myself a small little brush here now. Nice small little flat or a round brush, it doesn't really matter, okay? I'm going to take some cadmium yellow, some cadmium yellow, cadmium red, and some white. I'm making a very nice, rich kind of an orangey colour, a soft kind of an orangey colour. I'm going to start, in fact, I might try a touch of magenta as well. That'll warm it up. So I'm going for a sort of a peachy hue. It's a peachy kind of a colour, okay? A peachy, yellowy sort of a colour. Again, just take your time. Just try and get this colour just right. I'm going to go in and I'm going to start putting some of these just like that, okay? We have a nice highlight hitting on some of them up here, you see that? Again, clean your brush each time. Because each time you're doing this, you see, you're picking up those dark blacky colours, and you don't want to be mixing those together, do you? So just take your time. I put a couple of more, and I'm going to put loads down here, okay? And what I'm doing as I'm doing this, I'm twisting the brush, you see? So what that does is it pushes the paint to the outside edge of the brush. That's where you want to kind of get these curves, you see that? Like that. So I'm pushing the paint out towards the edge of the curve. I hope you've seen that there now. Let me try it again for you. We get some Naples yellow, some magenta, some a bit of cadmium yellow, and push out to the edge, you see? I'm turning my brush each time. And this does take a little practice. Just, you know, try to take your time. If you find it's all going green and messy and all that kind of stuff, I would just grab a tissue and wipe it off. Just try and wipe it off with a bit of tissue, a wet tissue, and start again. Because, you know, if you start seeing greens, you're going to become very frustrated and you're going to say, no, I can't do this, it's not working. And you put everything away and you forget about it. Just rub it off immediately with some damp tissue, let it dry and start again. Okay? That's all you have to do. Just try it. Now, let's go with some nice, again, you see? I'm creating different shades of a light kind of just, let's take some magenta and touch of cadmium red. I'm going to go up here and put some nice warm ones in. Look, let's go like that and like that. You see? Little circles, soften them in. Now you can darken that again if you want. Take some cadmium red with sienna. Okay. And what I'm going to do to get some shading down here is I'm going to take some dark, reddy kind of a grey colour. I'm taking some cadmium red, little touch of black, okay, and a touch of burnt umber. And because there's more red in this, it'll be okay. We can put some shadows in using that darker colour. And then onto that, I'm going to put a touch of kind of a blacky colour. Now, you don't have to go to all this extreme, all right? You really don't. You can just keep yours nice and simple if you like. Honestly, you know, if you're a little bit unsure about this, then just leave it, okay? Because the last thing you want is to mess it up. If you've gotten it to a point where you're happy, I would say just stop what you're doing and say, yep, I'm finished, I'm happy with this. You know, sometimes you have to avoid temptation, don't you, to kind of keep going. I think that's probably the number one rule with painting in general, with oil painting. You know when to stop, because if you keep going, there's a very real chance you're going to just make it worse and worse and worse. The more you add paint, the worse it's going to get. And that's probably happening right now with me. I don't know. But anyhow, I'm going to just keep going. Putting in some nice light ones over here, just for a bit of movement, I suppose, in the cloud. And for me, it's really about balance. It's about finding balance in a painting. And what I mean by balance is the color balance. Okay, so you have compositional balance and you have a lot of color balance as well. What you don't want to do is have too much of one color clashing with the other color. Okay, a lot of people kind of make that mistake with painting, so they'll have completely opposite colors clashing on the canvas. So you might have too much black next to too much yellow, or too much blue next to too much pink or green or something like that. And it just kind of, they clash sometimes if you have too much of it. So just be careful and not to overdo opposite sort of colors, okay? Now, I'm going to stop there. And again, I'm going to grab my fan brush and just gently soften that together just with the tip of the tiny hairs on the fan brush. Look, I just want to soften out the brush strokes ever so slightly. That's all I want to do. I'm just going in little circles, that's all. See? Creating little swirls. Now, the next and final step, I think, should see this finished. Let me just sit back for a moment and take a look at this. Okay, I'm going to darken. I think that needs a lot of darkening up on the right hand side. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just grab a load of black with my brush, and I'm going to go up here and darken that right down, look. And again, just go around in little circles here and there. Don't be tempted to cover everything, okay? Just go little spots at a time like this, you see? Just little spots like that. That gives you the direction of the plume of smoke, you see. So now we have a nice light side and a dark side. Isn't that lovely? So, look, my friends, we're almost there, really. I just want to do a couple of final touches on some of those lights, just to really bring out some of those lights, okay? I'm going to get a small pointy brush. I'm going to take some cadmium yellow. I need to find a clean part of my palette. Let me go down here. Cadmium yellow, titanium white, and a little, let's try a touch of magenta, perhaps. Let me just see what that gives us. That's a nice bright color. Okay, I'll go with that. And I'm going to just start adding some little bright spots here and there, look. So now we're kind of catching the outside edges of some of those lovely bright clouds coming down. And you don't have to go crazy with this now, just a little bit is loads. Let me get more of that again. Cadmium yellow, titanium white, and a little magenta. The magenta is such a beautiful colour, isn't it? It warms everything up, doesn't it? And I'm going to just go over some of these darker ones here, okay? Because I don't like them, so I'm going to go over them. A couple up here, like that. So just keep mixing this colour up as you need it. And just kind of soften it through. And when we soften this out then later, it's going to look, I hope, really nice. just remember, keep your palette as clean as you can, okay? Just because my palette now is getting very dirty and it's going to be very difficult for me to find clean sections of palette, so I'm trying to be careful. A little bit of cadmium yellow and white, and you could even soften that off with your finger as well, here and there, to create a nice puffy sort of an atmosphere. And you could pop some of that down around here as well. But I'm just going to keep it, you know, pretty much simple. I'm not going to overdo this plume of smoke too much because, you know, I could ruin it. I could absolutely ruin the painting. So let me just get my soft brush again. Very gently soften some of those out. Just go around in little circles over them, okay? That just softens the brush strokes away ever so slightly. Now you probably have another way of doing all of this, okay? You know, if you have an easier way and you have even a better way, I'm not saying this is the best way to do it, but you might have an easier way of doing this and achieving even a nicer result. I'd love to see it. So I do hope you try this painting, and I'd love to see how you achieve this sort of smoky effect from a locomotive. I really would. So please don't be afraid to share on the Patreon page, okay? Because it's so much fun. I love seeing what you're doing. I really do. So yeah, a little bit of dirty kind of colour going on down there. So we'll just rub that away. Soften it out. Okay. And I might just move some of that darker colour in slightly like that. Look, just over a bit. To make it a little bit more thicker. And I'm going to call it finished, my friends. I don't think there's anything else I need to do. I could probably spend another hour working little details here and there. Perhaps a touch of red just to brighten up the front of that train. I could perhaps, you know what I would like to do actually? I'd love to get some bright orange. Okay, let me show you. I'd love to try some bright orange colour and pop some bright orange over the train here and there, because just to really give it the effect of the sun catching. I want the sun catching the side of that train as well. So maybe a bit down there, a bit on the outside. It's very difficult working with yellows and browns and greys because they do sort of clash ever so slightly. And it's difficult to get them to kind of stick. You see what I mean? It's very difficult. You're probably better off just letting all of this dry for a while. And look, I'm happy enough with that. I'm just going to do one last thing. I'm going to darken this track here. And perhaps just add a few little touches here and there, just to kind of, I want to help the front of the train to kind of almost disappear in with the tracks. Do you understand what I mean? So it just kind of flows nicely down. And I think that's it, my friends. I don't want to overdo this. I'm just going to finally perhaps add a couple of more branches or something like that. And you know, look, as I was saying earlier, you could go crazy with all of this. You could spend an hour doing all these branches if you wanted to really go to town on it and do lots and lots of foliage or something like that. I just want to give it an impression, that's all. I just want the viewer to kind of balance the painting, really. You could leave it out if you like, absolutely. But I think just to balance the painting, this would be nice, just to add more foliage. And then I'm going to also add a little blue across the front, like that. So little touches of blue here and there, just to indicate shadows and little highlights of certain objects on the train, okay? I find that very effective. A nice little purple here and there. You see, it just sort of brings the shadowed areas almost to life, doesn't it? And finally, I think, because otherwise I'll start doodling, I'm just going to separate some of the tracks there with some black, just to refine them a little bit better. Just a touch, okay? And I suppose one last thing we could try is perhaps if you wanted to add a touch of light onto the trees, just to some of the branches. So you can see, look, it's just catching some sunlight here and there. You see that? Maybe just a little tiny splash of colour here and there. And I would say we're pretty much finished, my friends. I really hope you've enjoyed watching this. Put something here like a little handle or something, just to suggest that it's for something. And a little bit of dark down underneath it. And we're done. I'm going to call this finished, because if I keep doodling now on this, I'll be here for another hour boring you. So perhaps just one or two spots of light catching the tracks here and there. Could be little nails and that kind of thing, you know, bits and pieces, just to make the track look busy. That's all. And just down around the side of the train as well, I want to just add a little touch of a warmth down there. Okay. I'm finished, my friends. I'm calling it done. I don't want to spend too much time doodling with this, okay? Because you know what will happen. I'll probably end up ruining it. So I'm going to leave it at that and call it finished. I do have to do one very important thing, don't I? I must sign. And there we go. Painting finished. I hope you've enjoyed it, my friends, because I have enjoyed this immensely. I really, really have. It's been so much fun and a pleasure to paint. There we go. A locomotive with nice, strong, powerful plumes of smoke coming out. And that, my friend, is the lesson for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining me and tuning in, if you have. If you have any more suggestions, I'm covered in paint. I paint all over my clothes. Does that ever happen to you? You know, painting away, and you finish the painting, suddenly you look down and there's paint everywhere. All over your hands, your sleeves, everywhere. It appears out of nowhere, doesn't it? So I must go and clean all of this off. Okay, try and simplify it if you can, my friends, alright? Punit, thank you very much for your suggestion. If you've got any more of these kind of suggestions, please do send them on, because I like a challenge. You know me. I got one recently for a silver coffee kind of a can, silver coffee jug type of a thing, kind of a sterling silver with the reflections on it. So maybe something like that as well. It's nice to try different things, isn't it? Anyway, go and have a bit of fun with that. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you very, very soon, my friends. Happy Easter to you all. It's Easter Sunday here. I hope you're all busy tucking into your chocolate eggs, and there will be plenty of visits to the dentist, I think, very, very soon. I'm sure you'll agree. So I will see you. God bless, and happy painting, my friends. I will see you very, very soon. Take care.